My next guest was a nuclear scientist who radically changed the course of his life after God called him to become a Bible translator in the South Pacific. He's discovered some amazing revelation from both the scriptures and the ancient Jewish sages that may hold the answer to mysteries such as what happened to the lost 10 tribes and where are they? And was the founder of America, Christopher Columbus, a Jew? Please welcome the director of South Pacific Island Ministries, author and biblical scholar, Victor Schlatter. Victor, welcome back to Jewish Voice. Good to see you again.
It's been a long time.
Have a seat. You're a linguist, you're a Bible scholar, and you've made some amazing discoveries. I want to talk about the lost 10 tribes because it's a theme that really interests me personally. We've been finding Jewish communities around the world that claim to be descendants of the lost 10 tribes. Where did they go? Where are they?
These forgotten ones, basically in the third world these days and all the way across the southern hemisphere.
Well, the seed of Israel, truly scattered. Talk about the legend of Papua New Guinea. I think that's fascinating.
Right. Papua New Guinea, as I said, 800 tribes. Now, they're all different, but the Highlands tribes probably have a lot in common. And this is where I first got into this stuff. I began taking Papua New Guineans over to Jerusalem and all over the place. The second trip, I was over there and I gave him an afternoon off, and I ran over to a friend of mine who was a photographer, and on the back wall of his little cubicle, his little office, he had all these pictures he had taken, didn't use, didn't want to throw away, and right in the center were 3 dark-skinned girls. And his name was Bud Burton. I said, Bud, where'd you get these Papua New Guinea girls? He says, they're not Papua New Guineans. They're Ethiopian Jews. Whoa. I took them over there and I said, where are these girls from? I thought they were going to say Papua New Guinea. They shocked me. They said, this one is from Pangaea. That's about 75 kilometers from where we lived. This one's from Mendi. That's the Southern Islands capital, or the provincial capital.
So they recognized
them? They looked the facial features. You could tell them they're different, but I wasn't born there, but I could tell a lot of them. And then this third one, we don't know. We don't recognize her. She must be from the coast. Anyway, I said, look, you guys, these are 3 daughters of one father born in Africa, and her father brought them to Jerusalem last year. And that's where he got the picture. And then he started telling me our ancestor was Avram Pamu. Now, you know, B and V are interchangeable in Hebrew. Avram, that's Abram Pamu. And I didn't know what Pamu was at the time. I found out later.
Ramu.
It's Ramu, and it means exalted. Added Ham, Avraham, exalted father of many nations. He told us not to steal, not to kill, not to take somebody else's wife, not to tell lies, but the white man came and we forgot all this.
All the way to Papua New Guinea. You talk in your book about Exodus 13:18 says, so, which I'll read, and you have retranslated it. Exodus 13:18 says, so God led the people around by the desert road towards the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of Egypt armed for battle.
That's what the English says, or there's about 10 translations. And the English translators said armed for battle. This word, hamushim, means fortified with some moral tenet, fortified with loyalty, fortified with excellence, equipped with honesty, equipped. That's what the meaning of the word is, and only one means equipped for battle. That's the one that the translators picked, but that's not the one the sages who know Hebrew picked. They picked a variation of that word. It's a variation of hamesh, 5. I am is plural. The plural of 5 in the thinking is 50, or also 20%, 1/5. And that's what the sages went for, saying, and this sounds like unadulterated heresy, only 20% left with Moses. They were from Goshen.
So you're saying 1/5 left Egypt in the Exodus?
Left Egypt.
Which brings up a really interesting question for me. We've recently started working with the Lembeh
Yes.
in Zimbabwe. You believe that they may be from Egypt, post-Exodus Egypt.
I do. I give people the facts, the things that I found, go ahead and connect the dots. And so I think it's a pretty good chance that the Lembehs came from that 80% that never left Egypt with Moses in Africa, in Central and Western Africa. They kept the Sabbath. The tribes kept the Sabbath.
We are finding isolated Jewish communities all over Africa. The Lembeh are amazing because they're isolated, they're rural, they only eat meat that is butchered by their own butchers. They won't intermarry. And the DNA. They have a higher percentage than the Sephardic and the Ashkenazi.
Goes way back to Abraham. Your offspring are going to be the stars, like the stars of the sky and the sand of the sea. Goes all the way back to Abraham.
We were talking about Christopher Columbus being Jewish.
I think he had a handful with him on the boat. These, you mentioned the name crypto or conversos. These were supposedly converted to the Roman system, but then once they got out of there, they went back to their Jewishness.
We're talking about Jews who underwent the process of conversion without really, because we're Christians on the outside, we're Jews on the inside.
Yeah, and it's either convert to the system or get your heads cut off or get burned at the stake. Well, Columbus opened the door, and then these conversos or cryptos.
How many do you think there are?
Well, this is what I didn't know. Found a Messianic brother. I believe he was working with these people. I asked his brother, how many conversos do you think are down there? He came back in 3 days. He said, we reckon 15 to 20 million conversos in Brazil, not 100,000, 15 to 20 million. Where you just came from in Mexico, 5 million more. And then he said, we don't know Chile. It's harder to get our facts down there.
I might be pronouncing this wrong, but the Amikoshi Ark.
Yeah, Omikoshi.
Amikoshi Ark in Japan. What is it? Where did Japan get it?
I had a couple of friends, short-term missionaries in Japan, and they saw these Shintoists running around with the couple of poles and a little doghouse-like thing on top. Hey, they said, that sure reminds us of the Ark of the Covenant. We got to tell Victor about this one. And they told me, and I started researching it and looking it up. And the bottom line here is that in 40 days, that it only took 40 days for 2 tablets of stone to shift off into the golden calf. So what's going to happen in 40 generations? So therefore, this Shintoist ark certainly must have come from some Jewish tracks way back. The fact is that God made some pretty good seeds, and these genetics could pop up one of these days.
They could indeed. How about the seed of Israel in China?
Abraham's second wife, Keturah, had sons and daughters. He sent them to the east, and the east isn't London. The east is China. And so there are Chinese communities there.
Victor, talk about the title of your book, Genetically Modified Prophecies, your most recent book. That's a really interesting title.
Well, I'm a
Why
little
that
bit
title, Genetically Modified Prophecies?
A little bit naughty in my titles, but you never know what it's about until you have to get into it and find out. Well, first of all, a lot of these folks that came in with Moses on the way out of Egypt, the Jethros and the Calebs, and let's see, there were others who weren't into Egypt. There was Rahab, the hotel keeper in Jericho, and Ruth. You're not supposed to have a Moabite into the temple for 10 generations. Hey, Ruth walked right in and even came into the line of the Messiah. And these things, I can see where modification is not too hard for the Almighty. He made genetics in the first place. But what I see genetics as is the carrier wave on a call from deep space. Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created. He created genetics. And it's his carrier wave. Hey, he talked to Adam, he talked to Eve, he talked to Noah. How? Well, there's something in here that hears something out there. And I see that there's going to be a real harvest one of these days from the third world, and a lot of it is going to be from the southern hemisphere.
Victor, thank you. Great to have you back on the program. Victor's book, Genetically Modified Prophecies, Whatever Happened to the Sand and Stars God Promised Abraham, will help you to better understand Bible prophecy connected with the last days and the return of Yeshua, Jesus. It's a fascinating tool to help you better understand the Scriptures and God's promise to restore Israel.
Jewish Voice is made possible by the support of friends and partners like you.